Hello. I just wanted to do a quick summary of the Simhub settings I've got for the bass shaker that I use with ACC. So hopefully you can just about read this. I couldn't find a way to make the text any larger. But I've got essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 or 8 settings. I don't always use all of them. This one, for example, I would normally switch off. But to go through quickly, uh, road road vibration, wheel slip, gear shift, RPM, custom effect, which is vibration for throttle, custom effect, which is vibration for tire wear. This one is vibration for red line, and this one is a custom effect vibration for rev limiter. So going through a bit more detail, what I can do is actually have a quick drive. You can see in the middle of the screen there, live effects. It's not ideal having this right in the middle of the screen, is it? Anyway, you can see as you're going along. So it's a almost linear response, 1.15 gamma. It's quite a bumpy pit exit, so it's quite a nice one to see the effect here. So what I've done with this one, the bass effect frequency I've set higher. So at the low amplitude, it's quite a high frequency, but then at higher amplitude, in terms of input, frequency drops, so you get more chunky vibration with the big bangs that come in through the suspension. This one's set quite high in terms of an output, that's at 70%. Wheel slip again is something that's fed to Simhub by the game, and I believe this is lateral wheel slip. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's a bit of everything. The cool thing about Simhub is you can turn individual effects off without having to. You don't have to delete them. You can just turn them on and off, and isolate them. So let's actually. Yeah, you can see on this little bar here, and actually on the live effects as well. So that is longitudinal wheel slip, which I believe is just going to be a difference in wheel speed between front and rear. Because it happened. That was the sustained braking. So anytime there's a difference between front and rear wheel speed, this one's going to trigger. So set this one a bit lower because it's going to be on pretty much most of the time. So that's a 40%. And again, similar to what I did with road vibration, bass effect frequency is high, so 70 hertz. And then as you get the higher amplitude, it becomes more chunky at 55. Gear shift, really simple. It's just a thump every time you change gear. This one's quite it's a nice to have a really strong effect on this one, so that's up at 80, 45 hertz, because that's kind of where my bass shaker is at its most strong. And you don't want a really buzzy one, you want quite a low frequency. But if I go down to 30 hertz, you can't really feel it because it just runs out of response down there. RPM, I've got it set so at low RPM and high RPM you get a response. So now this is idle and it's kind of at 30% or so. And the base frequency effect, so the down here, I'm at 35 hertz, so it's quite a low rumble. And then when I move from here to the mid range, oops, see the response goes down to 0 or close to 0, and then as I increase revs, you start to come up this side of the curve. And now the frequency, I've got my high frequency effect set to 75 hertz, so it's a lot more buzzy at high RPM and kind of chunky, shaky at low RPM at idle. So that's quite a nice one to have. I've also added an effect for throttle percent. So you can go into settings and you can bind any property you want basically to use an input for Simhub. So there's like literally 100 game input channels that you can use. This one simply uses Throttle. So you can see 0 throttle, and it just gives a little buzz for full throttle. For example, if you're at mid RPMs, you're not getting any buzz from the engine, but you want a little buzz from having full throttle on, then these two combine for quite a nice effect. And then if you're full throttle at high RPM, you get even more of a buzz when the two kind of overlap with slightly different frequencies. I use white noise as well. So there's a tick box for white noise, and you can change the frequency of the plus or minus, and that just adds a little kind of variability into the channel instead of just having a constant pure 55 hertz or whatever it is. The game outputs a Tyre. So again, on the mathematical channels, or not mathematical, just the custom channels, in set property, they have a Tyre. So raw result at the moment is 0. But basically, as your tires start to wear down, I've put a little rumble in for that. Not sure if I've ever felt it because there's so many other effects going on, but it seemed quite cool, so I thought I'd put it in there. And this one I've put quite high, so more of a kind of a not a rumble, but a kind of buzzing, I guess. So 70 hertz plus or minus 10 on the white noise. This one I normally leave turned off, so I've got a vibration for red line. So basically, as the throttle goes over the red line, but before the rev limiter, there's a vibration that comes in here somewhere. So yeah. So this one is a mathematical channel, and this is RPM minus red line RPM minus 60, to give a bit of an offset. But to be honest, this one it's well enough represented by just my RPM uptick at the end there. So just playing around, and this one I'll leave turned off. And then the last one is rev limiter. So when you're bashing off the rev limiter, you get quite a significant rumble. And again, this one is a mathematical channel. Oh no, sorry. This one is RPM. Oh no, sorry. Okay, this one is if RPM exceeds max RPM minus 60. So yeah, the max RPM is auto-generated by the game per car. So if your RPMs are within 60 RPM of the max, then that will trigger this. So that seems to work quite well. If you have it at 0, so if RPM is greater or equal to car settings max RPM, it doesn't trigger very often because it needs to be exactless. So if it's 9250, then your RPM needs to be exactly 9250, and 9259 won't trigger it. So this just gives a little kind of buffer for triggering without being excessive. If you have it to kind of 100, 200, then it'll be going up there when you're nowhere near the rev limiter. So maybe a bit more playing around with that one. I've only put this in like the last day or two, but it's quite a nice one, quite a nice effect. That I'm going to keep that one in. And yeah, red line. Oh, sorry, I was reading the wrong one before. So red line is RPM minus red line RPM. So if say the red line is 8750, this goes above 8750. So this is say 900. So it's that number divided by 4 to make the result a scalar of 0 to 100 or max 100. So at the moment the raw result is minus 1768. So now the result is just around 0, 15, and then it maxes at around 120 or so. Obviously anything over 100 is just going to kind of saturate the response, but that's a kind of quick and dirty way to get something. And obviously anything below 0 is not going to give you an output. So very kind of easy way to, if you want something that tells you if you're approaching the red line, maybe that'll be useful. So I've put it in there. The last cool thing you can do with Simhub is you can press record up here, go for a drive, and then you've got a replay. And what you can do when you replay, it basically replays the Simhub output file. I think I might need to, got 2 inputs at the moment. I'll just quit this. So as you're going through, you can see, for example, the live effect, and then you can fine tune your settings without having to tune something, go back and drive, tune it, go back and drive. And again, you can turn all of them on to get the kind of full experience, or if you want to fine tune something, you can just have one channel operating at a time. You can change your numbers and it'll kind of update the response live. If there's a particular event you want to fine tune, you can just drag the slider backwards and forwards to just keep going over that event until you're happy with all your frequency settings. And then you can move to the next one and then build it up. And you can kind of, if you have all of these open, you can see where the, if you're feeling a lot of vibration, you can see where it's coming from, for example, and tune things up and down. So really, really cool, quite intuitive, easy to use, but very powerful bit of software. Very impressed. The extra immersion it gives is really nice for the, for the money. I think you can get a free version of Simhub that allows you to do quite a lot of stuff, but it's not expensive. I've got the licensed version. It's, I don't know, a couple dollars, $10, something like that. And then for the kit, I've got a Dayton Audio BST1 bass shaker, which is 50 odd quid. Knob Sound G2 amp, 100 watt bass amp, switchable between bass and full frequency, and again that's 50 quid or so, so like £100. And to have this extra feedback is really cool. So I hope this was interesting and useful. Any questions, just drop me a line. I'll do what I can to help. All right, cheers.